She said, "You're just insecure. A confident man wouldn't check my phone." I said a confident man wouldn't date a liar. She had no comeback when I unlocked the door and her parents walked in to see the proof. I don't believe in blind trust. I believe in earned trust. Trust is built on a foundation of consistent, honest actions. For the first year of my relationship with Maya, her actions were solid. We were a team. We communicated. We respected each other. But over the last 6 months, cracks started appearing in that foundation. Not big, obvious chasms, but tiny, hairline fractures that you only notice if you're paying attention. And I'd always pay attention. It was little things. She started guarding her phone like it was a state secret. There were girls' nights that seemed to happen more and more frequently, from which she'd come home smelling faintly of men's cologne. There were vague answers to simple questions. The consistency was gone, replaced by a pattern of evasion. My trust wasn't blind, so it began to diminish. I didn't snoop. I didn't accuse. I simply observed, gathered data, and waited for a concrete piece of evidence before making a move. Acting on suspicion is emotional. Acting on evidence is logical. The evidence arrived on a Thursday night. We were sitting on the couch in my apartment. I had bought the place years before we met, watching a movie. Her phone, which she had uncharacteristically left on the coffee table, lit up. It was a text message notification. The name on the screen was Derek. The message preview was short and clear. "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." I didn't say a word. I didn't flinch. I just registered the data point. It was a significant one. The crack in the foundation had just become a gaping hole. The movie ended. She picked up her phone, saw the message, and her face tightened for a fraction of a second before she composed herself. She thought I hadn't seen it. I waited until she was getting ready for bed. I walked into the bedroom, my demeanor calm, my voice even. "Maya," I said. "We need to talk." "Who is Derek?" She froze her back to me. She turned around slowly, her face a carefully constructed mask of innocence and confusion. "Derek? Oh, he's just a guy from work." "Why?" "A message from him came through while we were watching the movie," I said. It said, "Last night was incredible. You told me you were at a yoga class last night." The mask of innocence slipped, replaced by the all-too-familiar mask of indignation. This was her go-to defense mechanism. Turn the accusation back on the accuser. "Are you checking my phone now?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Is that what we're doing? I can't believe this. You're just insecure." I refused to take the bait. I did not raise my voice. I did not get defensive. "I didn't check your phone." The message appeared on the screen. "You're avoiding the question." She scoffed, crossing her arms. It was a power move, designed to put me on the defensive. "It's a private conversation. A confident man wouldn't be worried about a simple text message. A confident man wouldn't feel the need to check my phone." There it was. The classic deflection. The attempt to reframe her blatant dishonesty as my personal failing. My insecurity. For months, I had been subjected to lesser versions of this tactic. But this time was different. This time, I had concrete evidence. And her response confirmed her character. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was angry she got caught. I looked at her. My expression unreadable. The last bit of emotional attachment I had to the relationship evaporated in that moment. It was replaced by a cold but hard certainty. "You're right," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "A confident man wouldn't check your phone." I paused, letting the silence hang in the air for a beat. "But a confident man also wouldn't date a liar." "And that's what you are, Maya. A liar." Her jaw dropped. She was so used to me backing down, so used to her tactics working, that my direct counterattack left her speechless. She had expected me to get flustered, to apologize for my insecurity. She had no comeback. "This conversation is over," I said. "And so are we." I turned and walked out of the bedroom, closing the door behind me. She started yelling my name, a mix of anger and panic in her voice. But I didn't hear her. I was already in my office, booting up my computer. The relationship was terminated. Now it was time to execute the exit strategy. She thought this was a fight about her phone. She had no idea it was about to become a tribunal, and I was about to call my key witnesses. Update 1. The hours following the confrontation were a masterclass in strategic planning. Maya, after her initial screaming fit, went silent. She locked herself in the bedroom. This was a tactical error on her part. She assumed we were in a standoff, a cold war that would eventually thaw with a tearful apology from her and a reluctant acceptance from me. She thought she had time. She didn't realize the war was already over, and I was just managing the fallout. My first move was to secure irrefutable proof. I knew her phone password. She had told it to me months ago so I could order food from her phone when mine was dead. Another lapse in her security. While she sulked in the bedroom, I let myself into the apartment's utility closet, where she often left her purse. I retrieved her phone. What I found was a treasure trove of deceit. The text thread with Derek was a detailed chronicle of a full-blown affair that had been going on for at least 2 months. They had been meeting at hotels, at his apartment, even at her yoga class. There were pictures. There were explicit plans. There were messages where she openly mocked me, calling me predictable and clueless. I didn't get angry. Anger is a useless, inefficient emotion. I became a documentarian. I used my own phone to take crystal clear pictures of every single screen of their conversation. I photographed every picture they had exchanged. I documented dates, times, and locations mentioned. I compiled a digital dossier of her betrayal that was over 100 photos long. When I was done, I put her phone back in her purse, returned it to my office. The evidence was secured. My next step was to arrange the tribunal. Maya's parents, the Thompsons, were good people. They were honest, hardworking, and had raised their daughter to be the same. They were, I knew, completely blind to this side of her. They adored her and saw her as a perfect, ambitious young woman. This illusion was her greatest source of power. She used their unconditional approval as a shield. I was about to shatter that shield into 1,000,000 pieces. I sent a group text to Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. My tone was light and cheerful. Hi Mr. and Mrs. I'm planning a little surprise for Maya tomorrow evening to celebrate her recent success on a big project at work. I was hoping you could be here to be a part of it. Could you arrive at my place around 7 p.m.? Just park down the street and text me when you're here. I'll let you in so we can surprise her together. Hope you can make it. It was the perfect bait. It was plausible, it played into their love for their daughter, and it gave me complete control over the timing of their arrival. They replied within minutes, saying they would be delighted to come. The trap was set. The next day was tense. Maya was giving me the silent treatment, clearly expecting me to break first and apologize for my accusations. I ignored her completely, which seemed to confuse and infuriate her even more. I spent the day working from my home office, finalizing my presentation. I connected my laptop to the large 65-inch television in the living room. I created a simple looping slideshow of the evidence I had collected. It was a brutal, undeniable narrative of her affair. The loving texts with Derek, the hotel receipts I found in her car from her girls' nights, the pictures she had sent him. I set it all against a plain black background. It was clinical, factual, and devastating. At 6:55 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mr. Thompson. We're here. Park down the block. Ready for the surprise. I texted back. Perfect. Give me 5 minutes. I'll come let you in the back door. I walked out of my office and into the living room. Maya was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pointedly ignoring me. Maya, I said, my voice calm. We need to finish our conversation from last night. She looked up, her face a mask of annoyance. I have nothing to say to you, Jake. Not until you apologize for your paranoid behavior. There's nothing to apologize for, I said. I wasn't being paranoid. I was right. And I have proof. She laughed. That same condescending laugh from the night before. Proof? What proof? Did you go through my phone? I knew it. You're just an insecure little boy. You're right. I did go through your phone, I admitted without shame. And you're wrong. I'm not insecure. I walked over to the front door. A confident man wouldn't date a liar, I said, repeating my words from the night before. And tonight, I'm going to prove to everyone that's exactly what you are. I unlocked the front door and swung it open. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were standing on the doorstep, their faces beaming with happy anticipation, ready for a surprise party. Their smiles instantly vanished as they took in the scene. They saw me, standing there with a grim expression. They saw their daughter, looking shocked and confused. And their eyes were drawn to the massive television screen behind us, where a picture of their daughter in a hotel room, a picture she had sent to another man, was displayed in crystal clear high definition. Maya followed their gaze to the TV. She saw the picture. She saw her parents. And in that moment, she had no comeback. Her world had just ended, and her parents were there to witness it. The silence in that room was the loudest thing I have ever heard. It was a heavy, suffocating silence, filled with the weight of shattered illusions. The Thompsons stood frozen in the doorway, their party-ready smiles replaced by masks of horror and disbelief. Maya was pale as a ghost, her eyes wide, darting from the incriminating photo on the television screen to the devastated faces of her parents. It was Mrs. Thompson who broke the silence. Her voice was a choked whisper. "Maya. What is that?" Maya couldn't speak. She just shook her head, a pathetic, silent denial that convinced no one. The slideshow on the TV, which I had set to a slow, deliberate loop, clicked to the next image. A screenshot of a text message from her to Derek. "Jake is so clueless. He actually believes I'm at yoga." Mr. Thompson took a step into the apartment, his face a thundercloud of fury and disappointment. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his daughter. "Is this a joke?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. It's not what it looks like," Maya stammered, finally finding her voice. It was weak and trembling. The arrogance was gone, replaced by pure, desperate panic. "It looks like you've been lying to us," Mr. Thompson said, his voice rising. To him. To everyone. This was my cue to step back and let the scene play out. I had set the stage and revealed the actor's true motivations. Now, I was just a member of the audience. I retreated to the kitchen, leaning against the counter, and watched the family drama unfold. Maya tried to spin it. She tried to use her time-tested tactics. She cried. She claimed I had doctored the photos, that I had taken her messages out of context. She painted me as a manipulative villain who had set this all up to hurt her. But for the first time in her life, her performance fell flat. The evidence was too overwhelming, too brutal. Her parents weren't just hearing accusations, they were seeing the proof with their own eyes. Every time she tried to lie, the television screen behind her would display another piece of her treachery, silently refuting her words. The argument raged for nearly an hour. It was a raw, unfiltered display of a family breaking down. Her parents were confronting not just her affair, but the realization that the perfect daughter they thought they knew was a complete fabrication. They were mourning the loss of an idea, and their grief was turning to anger. The climax came when a picture of the hotel receipt from her girls' weekend appeared on the screen, clearly showing a charge for a king suite for 2 nights. "You used the emergency credit card we gave you for this?" Mrs. Thompson asked, her voice filled with a pain that was hard to watch. "The card for car trouble and medical bills." Maya had no answer. She just stood there, broken and exposed, her web of lies completely unraveled. Finally, Mr. Thompson turned to me. His face was grim. "Jake," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. "I am so sorry. You did not deserve this." He then looked at his daughter. "Get your coat. You're coming with us." Maya looked at him horrified. "What?" "No, this is my home." I spoke up for the first time since they had arrived. "No, Maya," I said from the kitchen. "This is my home, and you are no longer welcome in it." The finality of my statement, combined with the unwavering resolve on her father's face, was the final blow. Defeated, she grabbed her purse and her coat and allowed her parents to lead her out the door. As they left, her father turned back to me one last time. "She will have her things removed by the end of the weekend," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a promise. I closed and locked the door behind them. The apartment was silent again. I walked over to the television and turned it off. The show was over. Final update. It has been 5 months since the night I called the presentation. My life has been scrubbed clean, and the sense of peace is profound. True to his word, Mr. Thompson supervised the removal of Maya's belongings that weekend. He hired a moving company himself. Maya was not present. I imagine the shame was too much for her to bear. Her father and I didn't speak much during the process, but there was a silent understanding between us. He was a man dealing with a deep family shame, and I was the man who had been forced to expose it. When the last box was loaded, he shook my hand and apologized again. I told him it wasn't his fault. The aftermath for Maya was, by all accounts, a harsh and necessary reality check. She was forced to live at home with her parents, but not as their cherished daughter. She was living there as a disgraced adult who had broken their trust. They put her on a strict budget, took away the emergency credit card, and insisted she get therapy. The support system that had enabled her selfish behavior for years had transformed into a system of accountability. Her relationship with Derek imploded, of course. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he was terrified when he learned what had happened. He wanted nothing to do with the drama, especially when he realized Maya no longer had access to a nice apartment and a comfortable lifestyle. He blocked her number and disappeared from her life. Maya's attempts to salvage her reputation were a spectacular failure. She tried to tell her friends that I was a controlling monster who had faked the evidence to ruin her life. But the story of what happened that night with her parents as witnesses was too powerful. It spread through our social circle, and her lies couldn't compete with the truth. She lost a lot of friends, not because of the affair itself, but because of the depth of the deception and the way she had tried to blame everyone but herself. As for me, I took some time to heal and recalibrate. I sold the apartment because it held too many memories of the lie I had been living. I bought a new place, closer to my work, a place that was mine from the start. I reconnected with my own life, my own hobbies, my own friends. My revenge was not about causing pain for the sake of it. It was about justice. It was about holding a liar accountable in a way she could not escape. She used her parents' love and trust as a weapon against me, so I used that same love and trust as a mirror to show them who she really was. She tried to gaslight me, to make me believe I was insecure and paranoid. But I refused to accept her reality. I gathered my facts, built my case, and presented it to a jury of her own family. She had no comeback, because there is no comeback to the truth. She was so confident in her ability to manipulate people that she never considered the possibility that someone would simply refuse to be manipulated. She thought she was in control. But a confident man doesn't need to control anyone. He just needs to control himself. And by calmly and logically exposing her, I took back control of my own life. The verdict was unanimous, and the sentence was a life of her own making. And I am finally at peace.